The Pentagon has summoned U.S. military leaders to Virginia, with insiders linking the move to 3I Atlas.
Deep space observatories detected something unprecedented racing toward our solar system at impossible speeds. Now, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has declared an emergency meeting that will take place on September 30th at Marine Corps Base Quantico. Hundreds of senior officers have been ordered to attend, including every general and admiral across the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and even the Space Force. Reports suggest nearly 800 participants will be present, making this one of the largest gatherings of military leadership in U.S. history. The lack of answers has fueled speculation, especially as monitoring stations tracking 3I Atlas, the mysterious interstellar object that has already defied scientific explanation, recently experienced sudden disruptions. Many now believe this meeting isn't just routine strategy. It could be a direct response to 3I Atlas and what it might mean for national security. What exactly did the military detect, and why are they preparing as if this isn't just science, but survival? A quiet deployment. In late night hours when the public slept, something unusual stirred in naval bases, from Norfolk to Pearl Harbor. Orders were transmitted under secure channels. Redeploy select fleets, prepare sonar arrays, and activate satellite-linked defense networks. Officially, no announcements were made. Yet satellite hobbyists and military bloggers noticed ship movements that didn't match any scheduled exercises. The vessels being moved weren't for routine patrol. They were Aegis-equipped destroyers, ballistic missile defense cruisers, and even submarines outfitted for deep-sea surveillance. The target of these sudden maneuvers, an object millions of miles away, 3I Atlas. At first, this didn't make sense to the public. Why would the Navy, not NASA, lead the charge in responding to a space object? But insiders leaked a chilling reason. Data from James Webb and classified military telescopes suggested Atlas wasn't behaving like a comet. Its emissions, its trajectory shifts, even its strange metallic readings hinted at something more deliberate. And if there was even a 1% chance this was control, military preparedness became priority one. Reports began surfacing online of emergency briefings inside NORAD and sealed meetings between the Navy and Space Command. Some claimed a contact protocol was being rehearsed, one that merged naval operations with classified aerospace directives, a protocol written for events that governments always dismissed as conspiracy. Until now, the most unsettling detail was the Navy's choice to deploy into regions not typically tied to space observation, but to undersea monitoring. Hydroacoustic stations that once tracked Soviet submarines were suddenly recalibrated. Why? Some analysts whispered of a possibility that no one dared say too loudly. If 3I Atlas was more than debris, then it might not only move across the skies, it might interact with Earth's oceans. This theory sounded outrageous, but it explained the urgency. Ships weren't just repositioning, they were forming grids, silent nets in the water, waiting for something the public was never warned about. But if the Navy was preparing for contact, what exactly were they preparing to face? The hidden warnings. While the Navy scrambled in silence, scientists inside NASA were already raising alarms behind closed doors. According to leaked memos, internal reports described 3I Atlas as energetically anomalous and structurally inconsistent with natural bodies. These weren't the words of conspiracy theorists. They came from engineers tasked with parsing James Webb data. What NASA discovered first was size. Public statements downplayed Atlas as a comet roughly a kilometer wide, but the real numbers suggested something closer to 30 to 50 kilometers across. That scale meant devastation if it struck Earth, far worse than the asteroid that ended the age of dinosaur. Yet the official press releases stayed calm, vague, and sanitized. Then came the second warning, the emission. Spectrographic data hinted at repeating infrared pulses, structured like a signal. At first, analysts chalked it up to coincidence, but as more telescopes confirmed the pattern, the anomaly became undeniable. This wasn't random noise, it was rhythm, a rhythm that suggested communication. Still, NASA's public line remained one of dismissal. They called the patterns measurement artifacts and the plume an unusual but natural jet. But internally, some researchers began calling the readings a directed emission source. One whistleblower even claimed that the signal contained prime number interval, the classic hypothetical marker of intelligent origin. When those findings reached military channels, it was no longer a scientific puzzle. It became a national security threat. NASA was ordered into silence. Web data was locked down. Independent astronomers found their access throttled. Forums filled with speculation that the government wasn't just hiding what Atlas was, it was hiding what it might be doing. The conspiracy grew sharper when reports emerged that Elon Musk had been briefed privately. SpaceX, with its Starlink network, allegedly detected interference patterns during Atlas's approach. Musk cryptically tweeted and deleted a post, "It's bigger than they're telling you." But if size and signals weren't the only secrets, then what was NASA truly afraid of revealing? Political firestorm and public reaction. When whispers of 3I Atlas leaked beyond the scientific community, Washington couldn't keep the lid on any longer. Lawmakers began receiving classified briefing, and soon after, the political storm ignited. Senators demanded transparency. Was this simply a strange comet, or was something more deliberate entering our solar system? The White House issued carefully worded statements. The situation is under review. There is no threat to the public, but behind the scenes, panic was brewing. Former President Donald Trump jumped into the conversation, calling Atlas a cover-up bigger than Roswell and accusing NASA of withholding the truth. Elon Musk, never shy with speculation, added fuel by suggesting on X, formerly Twitter, that Atlas's trajectory adjustments were technologically suggestive. The post vanished within hours, but screenshots spread across the globe. Meanwhile, conspiracy forums lit up with theory that Atlas was an alien probe, that it was a disguised weapon, even that it was a harbinger of biblical prophecy. YouTube live streams racked up millions of views overnight, featuring amateur astronomers pointing shaky telescopes at the sky, desperate to glimpse what governments seemed so eager to hide. Public fear wasn't limited to the online world. In coastal towns where Navy ships had quietly redeployed, residents noticed the unusual activity. Families living near bases in Virginia and California reported unexplained night drill, booming sounds offshore, and entire harbors sealed without explanation. Rumors swirled that Atlas wasn't just being tracked from the sky, it was being prepared for from the sea. Even mainstream outlets couldn't resist the story. CNN described Atlas as the most unusual interstellar visitor ever detected. Fox News went further, citing unnamed Pentagon sources who called the object strategically concerning. Overnight, the debate moved from fringe chatter to the center of global politics. But the most unsettling reaction wasn't public, it came from within. Multiple insiders claimed classified briefings warned of a potential maneuver during Atlas's solar conjunction. The phrase repeated again and again, not a rock, not random. If Atlas could change course, then the panic in Washington wasn't misplaced. And just as the political noise reached fever pitch, the Navy's emergency response escalated. But what exactly were they preparing to intercept? The Navy's secret protocols activated. By late summer, the Navy was no longer hiding its urgency. Fleets were pulled into formation, radar networks stretched to maximum range, and classified undersea cables began transmitting non-stop data to Pentagon Command. Officially, this was routine training. Unofficially, insiders revealed something much darker. The Navy had activated protocols written decades ago for unknown contact. These weren't science missions. They were contingency plans designed during the Cold War, updated quietly in the 2000s, and buried under layers of secrecy. The directives outlined how the Navy should respond if Earth ever encountered an object that defied natural classification, an object like 3I Atlas. What triggered the activation? Leaked intelligence pointed to two disturbing developments. First, Atlas's trajectory showed small but deliberate course corrections, nudges impossible to explain by solar radiation or outgassing alone. Second, deep-sea listening stations detected unexplained low-frequency hums at the exact times Atlas's emissions spiked. The implication was chilling. Signals were not just directed outward into space. They were somehow resonating with Earth's oceans. This connection between sky and sea pushed the Navy into high alert. Submarines carrying advanced sonar and electronic warfare suites fanned out across the Pacific and Atlantic. Aircraft carriers repositioned as floating command hubs. Even civilian satellite companies reported government interference as certain frequencies were suddenly locked. And behind the official silence, whispers emerged of wargaming scenarios. What if Atlas didn't just pass through? What if it slowed down, or worse, descended? For the first time, the question wasn't academic. Atlas's strange plume-like jet, pointing against the solar wind, looked less like a comet tail and more like controlled propulsion. In underground bunkers, Pentagon planners debated responses, ranging from observation to direct engagement. But one detail from those secret drills stood out. Every scenario included the same phrase, written in stark language: prepare for submersible entry. If Atlas could enter Earth's atmosphere or its oceans, the Navy wanted to be ready. But just as these plans took shape, another revelation arrived, one that would raise the stakes from mystery to outright alarm. The classified discoveries that changed everything. The turning point came not from telescopes, but from a leak inside the Pentagon. A mid-level analyst, speaking under anonymity, described a discovery that terrified even the most seasoned officers. According to him, Atlas wasn't just larger than NASA admitted, it was hollow. Radar returns from the Navy's most advanced sensors revealed inconsistencies, pockets within the object where matter should have been solid. Instead of a dense core, there appeared to be cavities, structured, repeating, and geometric. This wasn't chaos, it was architecture. Engineers who reviewed the data compared it to the ribbed hull of a ship, not the random fractures of a rock. Then came the second revelation. The Navy's hydroacoustic arrays, first built to track Soviet submarines, began registering ultra-low frequency pulses every 11.2 seconds. These pulses matched the rhythm already flagged by NASA in Atlas's infrared emissions. In other words, the same signal was echoing in two places at once, in the vacuum of space and in Earth's ocean. What did it mean? To some, it suggested Atlas wasn't just passing by, it was interfacing. Whether this meant communication, reconnaissance, or something far more invasive, no one could say. But the pattern grew stronger as Atlas neared the inner solar system. When fragments of these findings reached lawmakers, panic hit Washington again. Classified briefings warned that if Atlas continued on its trajectory, its closest approach to Earth would occur within months. The object wasn't on a collision course, but its precision alignment with the orbital plane was impossible to dismiss as chance. Conspiracy forums exploded with wild claims that Atlas was a mothership, that it was here for resource harvesting, or that it was connected to the Black Triangle sightings military pilots had whispered about for decades. Mainstream news outlets cautiously hinted at anomalous behaviors while dismissing alien talk as paranoia. But behind the curtain, the Navy doubled its readiness. Emergency funding surged into classified program. New submarines were ordered to patrol choke points in the Atlantic, and most chillingly, one document surfaced with a headline stamped in red: Atlas Event Tier 1 Preparedness. If true, this wasn't just another cosmic mystery. It was an event category reserved for existential threats. But even that wasn't the final revelation, because what happened next would make even hardened skeptics reconsider everything they thought they knew. The closing crisis, an unanswered question. By late autumn, the situation had shifted from quiet concern to outright urgency. For months, 3I Atlas had been the subject of classified meetings, hushed military movements, and mysterious leaks that slipped past government censors. But as it reached perihelion, the closest point to the sun, everything changed. This was the period of solar conjunction, when Earth lost direct visibility. Telescopes were blinded by solar glare, radio signals scrambled by plasma interference. For weeks, astronomers could do nothing but wait and hope Atlas re-emerged on schedule. But when it finally reappeared, the data sent a chill through every control room in the Western world. Atlas's trajectory was no longer the same. The change was subtle, barely a few degrees, but enough to send predictive models spiraling into chaos. NASA's orbital simulations, the European Space Agency's forecasts, even the Pentagon's own classified software, none could account for what had just happened. The only explanation left on the table was also the most terrifying. Atlas had maneuvered inside U.S. Navy command centers. The mood was electric. The emergency drills they had been quietly rehearsing were no longer what-ifs. Warships redeployed to strategic oceans, submarines were ordered into new patrol depths, and intelligence satellites shifted focus toward a sky that suddenly felt hostile. The Air Force elevated its alert posture. Every action was deliberate, coordinated, yet shrouded in silence. The government's official statement, a bland reassurance that tracking continues as expected. But no one believed it, not after the leaks, not after the unexplained plume that had looked more like propulsion than dust. Public reaction was immediate and volatile. Elon Musk hinted cryptically on social media that SpaceX was preparing launch support for national defense, setting off a firestorm of speculation. Donald Trump, speaking at a rally, accused the Biden administration of hiding the alien truth from the American people. News outlets ran conflicting stories, some mocking the panic, others fueling it with unverified insider tips about emergency White House briefing. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens turned their eyes skyward. Live streams of the night sky racked up millions of views. Chat rooms exploded with rumors of glowing objects near the moon, and conspiracy forums argued over whether Atlas was a probe, a ship, or something even stranger. Religious leaders called it a divine omen. Economists whispered about market instability if panic spread too far. Then came the silence. For 3 consecutive days, the Navy's deep-sea arrays, massive underwater listening posts used to track submarines and seismic events, stopped registering the strange electromagnetic rhythms tied to Atlas. Gone were the pulses, gone were the echoes. Nothing remained but dead quiet. Officials dismissed it as technical maintenance. Analysts weren't so sure. Some argued Atlas had finally moved beyond range. Others whispered a far darker possibility, that Atlas wasn't gone at all, but cloaked, already inside Earth's orbit, hidden in plain sight. And so, the story closes not with clarity, but with dread. A Navy on high alert, a government speaking in half-truths, a public divided between fear, fascination, and disbelief. Because the real question is no longer what Atlas is. It's why now? Why Earth? Why this moment in history, when technology finally allows us to see it, only for it to answer by changing course? The countdown, some believe, has already begun. And in that silence, one truth echoes louder than any signal. Whatever 3i Atlas is, it knows we're watching, and it may already be watching back. Thanks for watching another episode. While you are still here, make sure to click the video on your screen for more quality content.